Welcome to Amazing Living Studios in Angel Cafe. Today we have a very exciting interview with Francisco David Coll, better known as Tiger, who stepped into his father's seat, the late Dr. Francisco Coll, as president of the Americana Leadership College. As a child, Tiger had the opportunity to travel the world with his family, inspiring people to take that leap of faith and build a strong relationship with their spiritual guidance. By connecting to your source, one can live a life of immense happiness, strong relationships, and purpose. Tiger's tenacity in life forged him through any challenge with gusto. Let's learn how we can connect with our source by sitting in on Angel Cafe as inner business leader Dennis Gabriel Smith interviews Tiger Coll.
Hi, Tiger. How you doing?
Good. Good to be here, Dennis.
What I wanted to kind of jump into is, what does a 21st century spiritual leader look like? You've had a unique perspective on the subject since you were literally raised within the leading spiritual movement in the 70s, the Inner Peace Movement. And then you're the son of the founder of the Americana Leadership College. It's a college of spiritual experience. What I'd like to know is, what was it like growing up in that environment?
I've had this question before. Looking back on it, it was a unique experience, and at the same time very similar in common to probably what most people go through. I mean, you're growing up, you have certain needs, you got to go through education and the whole thing. So all the basics were always there. I guess the first thing I like and enjoy to share is talking about the relationship between parenting, then my relationship, as a son, and then relationship as a student. And that, Dennis, that's probably the key point that really stands out when people ask me that question. In other words, I was always aware that I was the son to my parents, but I was also very aware that I was an apprentice. And that was always present, always. It didn't matter where we were, whether we were in doing program and these tools and techniques, or whether we were on the street. There was few opportunities missed to share with me or work with me from a perspective of an apprentice. Early in the day, I didn't know any different, but it wasn't until I started going to school that I realized, there's a little difference here. So that's one of the key areas that was different, is that a lot of opportunities were taking to work with my sensitivity, to work to learn with people how things work. And that could have been in the middle of a cafe, could have been in the middle of the street, could have been in program. So that was the unique part for me that stands out, is I had the relationship of all my needs being met as a child, but then there was the ongoing relationship as a student or an apprentice.
Can you think of an experience or an event that happened that was an example of that?
Sure. I think one time we were out in, I guess it was Disney World or something. I was getting all ready to get on a ride, and those lines, you get those lines on there, and you're just waiting in line, and this was a particular long line, and I was in there for a while, and as a young person, if, it's longer than 5 minutes, it's a long time. But I was in this line, and I remember I started getting close. Francisco walked up to me, and he pulled me out of the line. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm going to lose my place. And he pulled me over, and he sat me down, and he started showing me what people were thinking or what was going on with them internally. And he would just, almost like people watching, I guess they call that. But he was just showing me how when people would walk by and conversations with guys, they said, look at that person there. This person's really afraid. Look at this person over here. That person is really full of joy. And it was just, the moment was there. He felt the moment was there, and it just took it. And from my perspective at the time, it was such a oh my God, I've been yanked out of this line here, and as a young person, I'm dealing with that. So that was the type of thing that would go on, and if same with from another perspective, Dennis, if there was an area where I was not fulfilling my potential from his perspective, maybe I was goofing off or something like that, in a restaurant or something like that, he'd pull me aside right there and have the discussion, right? It wasn't take me away. It wasn't anything like that. It was done respectfully, directly, and then it was let go. So it was that type of thing that would happen more often than not. But in general, there was always the fun and the fulfillment of things and working with the program and so forth like that. But this is the kind of experiences that was common.
So a lot of the people that you were around at the time, including your father, were trailblazers. They were very strong. They were at a time when psychic sensitivity and self-spirituality was almost taboo. From what I saw was that you guys were all forerunners and people that were creating an open ground for all of the things that came afterwards. I'm wondering if you could tell us, how does that type of leadership show up today? How is a trailblazer today, and how do you see yourself and those lessons that you had from your father coming to fruition today?
That's a beautiful one. It segues into so many things, Dennis, but we've already have a lot of people starting to do this. I mean, just the fact that you're doing this Angel Cafe, I mean, this is the beginning of it. People starting to find ways to express themselves at that deeper level. That's where it all starts, is the bottom line. It's going beyond the surface, feeling and being the fulfillment. And I know some of this stuff that I say sounds rote. We have it in our culture more because of those forerunners. You hear announcers in football, baseball games talking about the aura of the stadium. Who would have thought we'd use that word, 20, 30 years ago? That would talk about taboo. But that's where it begins. When it comes to being the forerunner, it all starts with what is that fulfillment. And that requires more of seeing what it is that you want, not looking for it. It is really going deeper. That's the very first step, Dennis. Without that, then there will be no forerunning. There will be nothing else. It all starts with what really turns you on. What am I really interested in? Not what my parents wanted for me, not what my friends want for me. What do I want? And then discerning that, figuring that out, because it can be covered up. It can be twisted. So starting to figure those things out, and that's, part of life. We all know that. You go through life, you figure things out. I need to start there. Someone needs to start there. And that opens the door to the trailblazing. Without that, there's not going to be any forerunning. All I'm going to do is regurgitate and get intellectual about things that are very feeling. And that's why there's always challenge and turmoil with it, The bottom line is, it starts there. But to go beyond that, Dennis, the forerunning is when I'm consistent, when you're consistent, when we're consistent with what we need. And as it was so often pumped into you and I, Dennis, there's a difference between needs and wants. There's your physical needs, the things that you need for survival physically here on planet Earth. But then the rest of that, beyond that, needs are things that you take with you. So focusing on my needs, what do I need? Having certain feelings, this is a need. The sense of freedom is a need. These are needs. These are things that I take with me. So being very clean and clear with my needs helps me with that continuity, which is going to be another word I'm going to bring up later. That continuity, that being consistent opens the door. Half of life is showing up. That's true. That's so true. All I have to do is be a little consistent. And you may have remembered this, Dennis, but I remember Francisco telling me, if your parents, talking about your first 7 years in the maze, right? If your parents were consistently good, that's good. If your parents were consistently bad, that's good. If your parents were inconsistent, that's bad.
All right. I remember that. So if people are consistent, you can actually adapt to the situation.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. You can correct from there, because otherwise it becomes a vibration of always kind of regurgitating the
Right.
same thing in a different way.
Well, Tugger, I'd like to zoom in on a little bit of something that happened in your life and then kind of go into the bigger picture of where things are going.
Sure.
You made a decision somewhere along the line that was unique. You came from an environment of the inner peace movement, and then you chose to become a Navy SEAL. Now, a lot of people would kind of wonder about that and say that's kind of an amazing decision. But could you share the experience of what that meant to you? Where in that experience of doing that, did your spirituality and your free will and everything kind of click? And you understood why can you share that experience a little bit and your reasoning and your vision behind it?
That is it's a great one, Dennis. I do have that question from time to time. And even myself, I wonder what the heck you were doing, Getting involved in the service was something that there was an interest there early for me. So it wasn't haphazardly done. There was a desire there somewhere. There was an inner urge. And so I didn't know where it was all going to fit and how it was going to play itself out as I started getting older, or I was going to be able to make my own decisions at that age of 18 and beyond. But I knew that there was going to be something there. I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. But there was an interest. Part of it spiritually was just going back to the needs, right? I mean, I'm very tapped into the concept of what I need. This is something I think about when I'm drawn to something. But just to kind of get to the point, I knew that I needed to go beyond everything that I was learning about in the inner peace movement. I need to apply it. That was the biggest thing. Because growing up in it, as a young person, I didn't have all the experiences that many of my brothers and sisters had. And when I refer to brothers and sisters, everybody involved in inner peace movement, like yourself. I did not have the experience then come into the inner peace movement to learn and grow. I was learning and growing without the experience of life, and the cycles. There was that need to apply it, to make it practical, which was the key thing about spiritual things. You have to make it practical. So this became a closer I got to 18 and all of that, it started becoming clear to me that I needed to go do something. By the time I got to 18, this was something that was really on my mind. And getting involved in the service, particularly the teams, I just had figured, well, if I'm going to go into something, I want to get involved in something at a higher level. I didn't want to be involved in the basic level of things all the time. Like you, Dennis, being involved in the center in the camp, well, you learn to scrub toilets and you learn to do everything at the most basic level all the way up to working with people. So I wanted to be involved in something that I felt could push me. Wanted to be involved in something that I felt I could aspire to. And that was the beginning of it. Yeah, there was definitely some huge learning opportunities getting involved. Not everybody knows how to cleanse. Not everybody likes to work with the highest common denominator, which was a real shock to my system getting involved. And so it was all about working with people where they were at, learning to get my needs met. That was kind of the first wave of it, Dennis. I mean, it's, working involved in the service or any kind of large organization, which most people can relate to, it's not unsimilar. You get thrown into the mix. And so, working with the tools and techniques that I had at much times at an unconscious level helped me get through because inside I was pretty much a gentle person, shy to a certain degree. When I was around this type of energy, when I was around these type of people, it was a bit of a shock to the system, so I was reserved quite a bit. So that was there to help me, step out do something practical with these experiences.
To me, what you're talking about is leadership. A lot of leaders around today, they feel like they're committed, they're doing something, but they may not be 100%, committed to who they are themselves. And to me, that's one aspect that you seem to emanate. And so I'm wondering, with the leadership that you see around us today that have the similar motives, that want to help people and want to do some great work built on the great work that has been done before, because there's some amazing things that are there and available, to be able to deal with the environment and to be able to meet your goals. How do you see the leadership today? What do they need? What is something that could fire them up? I know that you're a person that can rally people. What is something that you see that the leadership today could chew on?
I'm going to return to a word that I brought up earlier. That word is continuity. And it sounds sometimes it sounds like an ethereal word, but it's a pretty important word related to leadership, related to getting fired up, related to doing what you came to do. I say that because more and more I get involved in this work, the more it needs to be practical, the more whatever you're doing, it needs to be brought from the spiritual into the material, because that's where all the true learning and growth is. So continuity, and to revolve around that word, continuity is the key. The other thing I'll say is, for many people, this is already a fact and a reality, but I'm going to reinforce it here. There comes a point when you can't go back, or you have to make that decision. In other words, you know what you know, you have a feeling for what you're about, you have desire. There comes a point when you have to make a decision that you can't go back. That going back it's too much work. Or whatever it is in your mind, you cannot go back. You need to go forward. And it's that there's that adage we used to talk about in program, Dennis, where you have to shoot the horse. There's just a point where I cannot go back anymore. And that's a decision. That is that D word, the decision that has to be made. That's number one. If you want to get fired up and want to be a part of what you've come to know, make a decision that you're not going to go back. You're going to go forward. And set your standards for yourself. Without that, there's too much ups and downs. There's too many opinions. There's too many lower common denominators that will want to take over. And there needs to be that continuity that keeps you going, keeps me going, keeps all of us going. Making that decision first of who you are, where you came from, where you're going, all that good stuff. And what you want to do, there has to be that decision. And then once that decision is made, let your spiritual helpers know, hey, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to do. And then it just requires your 50% after that. That whole thing after that is, that the law of attraction and, spirit and all that. That stuff is real as long as I've made a decision and I'm willing to do my part. Right? Everybody's got free will. I just got to do my part. So that sense of continuity now comes in. Right? Make a decision? Great. Now you can bring in that sense of continuity. It means that I am continuous. I go on, which keeps me from playing little games with people, working with lower standards. It keeps me from staying in a situation that I don't need to be in. How many times can you imagine when you're all of a sudden you come into a situation, or you're having a conversation, or you're having challenges, and all of a sudden you say, you know what? How did I get here? I don't need to be here. But yet I stay there. So there's times when you got to battle through things, but there's also times to say, hey, I don't need to be here. I don't need to do this. I don't need to play this game. Those are the times that decision, that continuity comes into place. I get to work with my higher standards. So if you want to get fired up about your leadership, which I think is, like you, Dennis, I think is critical for many, many people, it has to do with having that sense of continuity. Everything falls into place. No matter what level you want to work with things at, the standards, your inner standards start shining. They just start shining and they come through, and then the right people are attracted to what you need to do at the right time. And that's that whole, like I said, right time, right place, right thing. You know? But it's just being consistent and having that continuity.
Well, I'm going to ask you kind of an important question that goes all the way back to your father and the founder. But I wanted to ask. We have a special guest here, also Dawn Overstreet from the Americana Leadership College. She is the National Promotional Coordinator, and I just wanted to kind of have her share a little bit about what is the Americana Leadership College. Can you graduate from it? How does it work? So that people can kind of get a sense of that. And then I want to ask this last question of you, Tiger, if that's okay.
Oh, great. Sock it to me.
All right. Well, let's ask Dawn about the ALC. What is the Americana Leadership College? And then we'll get to this last question.
Well, Dennis, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head, being involved with the college for many years now. One of the things that I was inspired about what is the college itself is the fact that it's a college based on people's experience. No matter where they've been, what their lifestyle is, and what they're involved with in their life at this time, which was particularly of interest to me when I got involved in the programs of the college. It's about people learning how to make what they brought with them very practical. And through the programs of the college, which actually were created to form departments or programs that were associated with people's current lifestyle, so that if they felt that meditation was something that was more in keeping with their spiritual unfoldment, that was available to them. There were programs that are available to people that have a more religious or more faith-based way of living their life. That program was developed without dogma so that people could truly learn what that was all about. We have programs that are associated with the department is called Astra Soul, and that program is all about really taking an in-depth look at where I have been over the many lifetimes and the resources that I brought with me. All of these programs at the community level were designed for specific needs that people have to get to that next evolution in their own spiritual growth. And for myself personally, I came in on a leadership program. The reason that I did was because I was involved in so many different things in my life at that time. I was actually working with a business. I was raising 7 children. I was doing an amazing amount of things. And yet I felt a real lacking within myself. I knew I was a very organized person and that I could accomplish a lot. But quite often I felt very unfulfilled in all of the opportunities that I had. When I got involved with this program, I learned how to be more relaxed with what I was doing. I learned how to be more organized in what it was I wanted to accomplish and to ensure that my needs were being met as I moved towards those goals. Then I moved into training of all of the other departments just so I had an understanding of what those were and how they fit when it comes to working with other people. So the college is on a global scope has reached so many thousands of people over the 50 plus years that it's been in existence. And still today, it has an outreach to people who are very sincere about growing spiritually.
Well, I want to ask a question of you, Tiger. This is something I know was very important to Francisco, the founder, and I know it is to you and as well as myself and everybody that's come after him. And that is the word opportunity. Can you explain why that's so important and what that word means to you?
Opportunity, giving opportunity, yeah. Opportunity. Spiritually, what we're talking about is the evolution of the soul. It means basically that I am putting intention into what I do. That would be the intellectual version of it. Meditation in action, prayer without ceasing. These are all things that are going to be in that word opportunity when we're thinking about it spiritually. So an example of that, let's say we're in the kitchen and we're cleaning the dishes. I can either make that a job or I can make it an opportunity. So an opportunity means that there's something in it for me beyond the physical. It means I'm claiming this energy for myself, for my growth, for what I've come to do. And that's that evolution. I come here to do something, so if I'm always dealing with a job or I'm always having to do something or go someplace, then I'm never really involved in an opportunity. I'm seeing things always outside and never inside. So when I claim an opportunity, when I take an opportunity, I create an opportunity, this means that I'm living from the inside out. It means that whatever the focus is, whatever your thrust is in life, your purpose, your needs, you're filling that in what you do. I'm sure most people have heard the concept, however you describe it, the concept of heaven on earth. The word opportunity means making that a reality. That whatever your belief system, whatever you're working with, whether it's, with your spiritual helpers or whether it's other faith-based organization, it's irrelevant. It's about making that a way of life and taking every part of your life and turning it into an opportunity until it becomes larger and larger, that you're just working 50-50 with that bigger picture, with the all, the spirit. So opportunity is key. I mean, if you want to understand the feeling of what the universe is, of what the God energy is, the all, the cosmos, then you need to understand the word opportunity, because that's all there is. Just opportunity. You can take opportunity, you can give opportunity. It's all about the opportunity. And everything falls within that. And everything it's a neat little umbrella that everything can go in. If you're taking an opportunity, you're claiming an opportunity, as simple as it is, whether you're raising children, whether you are a child with your parents or whatever, it's all about the opportunity for you to learn and grow. And make sure you put both of those words in there, learn and grow, not just learn and grow. And that's the evolution. That's what it's about. So opportunity is about evolution. And that's where the spiritual meets the material. That's what it is for me, Dennis.
We want to thank you, for taking the time to do this, and Dawn and Alicia for hosting this with Angel Cafe. This is, to me, a moment of new beginnings. We have the opportunity to not only build on what has been, but to link into what we've come here to do in a way that no one has ever seen before. We have everything ready for us. We just need to get it going and enjoy it. And I think that your sense of, spiritual insight and your fun and, your wisdom, Tiger, you're the right man for the job. Everything is set up. So I want to thank you for coming in at this time onto the planet as well. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dennis. Right back at you, brother, and let's do it again.
It's time now to leave Angel Cafe. We thank you for joining us. We hope you were able to re-energize your forces to spiritual freedom. Come back next week for your next cup of Angel Cafe. Thank you from Amazing Living Studios.